Hey everyone, I am here with Chris and Daniel from CyberFin. Super happy to have these guys back on the podcast. They've been here before, but some of you may not know who CyberFin is, what they're about. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Daniel Metcalf. I'm the co-founder and president of CyberFin. I have the best job at the company. My job is to educate and go through and do the cyber assessments for all of the insurance agencies and agency owners and brokers that need to be protected and compliant to cybersecurity needs.
And my name is Chris Steffel. I'm also one of the co-founders. Been pretty excited. We've been doing more and more in the industry, helping protect them. We've also started to see more and more breaches and more risk that's happening out there. So it's been great that we started the company and being able to protect different individuals in the industry and just bringing everybody up to education, on their own stuff, and then even for clients that they may have.
Great. So for those that don't know, give us a quick overview of what CyberFin is, what you guys do, and what led you to start the company.
So CyberFin is a cybersecurity as a service for the insurance industry as well as their customers. We focus on small to medium-sized business owners and agency owners to provide them a service that they just cannot manage themselves, right? From all the attacks and all the different compliance regulations, they can't manage themselves and like someone else to manage it for them. We were actually born out of insurance. So Chris has mentioned he has been in the insurance industry. He has an agency that he's been running for over 20 years. He came to me about 5 years ago and said, "Hey, did you know that insurance agents, especially in the life and health space, are regulated under both state and HIPAA guidelines?" It's like, absolutely no, I did not know that. I've been in banks and credit unions for so long, I didn't know. And he's like, "Will you take a look at our stuff?" And so I did an assessment with Chris, and we found out that even after spending 90 days and about $30,000 of his own money to he was neither protected nor compliant. So we put our heads together and we came up with a solution and a service, both from a technology, the talent, and the software all together to be able to protect his agency and make him compliant. And he said, "Daniel, we should get this out to my downline or to my other friends and colleagues in the industry. Like they're not going to know how to do some of this stuff either. They probably don't even know." And I'm like, "I don't know, kind of like what I'm doing." And Chris is like, "No, this is a mission that we should be getting behind." And that's how CyberFin was born. And now we're in 20 plus states, and thanks to partners like the broker Jank, we're growing to a couple hundred agencies and other companies now that we protect every single day from cybercrimes and regulation fines.
That's great. It's been cool to watch your growth. I think you came to Kristen first, right? You're the
Right. Yep.
brokerage. And just kind of introduced your solution, and we learned about it, and you've been doing that all over the industry, and it's cool to see this catch on. So props to you guys. It's awesome to
Thanks.
see it to grow.
For sure.
Yeah, it's been an honor to work with both the broker Jank and your agents that you work with. Absolutely.
So you guys, before we got on this interview, you said you had 3 myths and 3 tips that you wanted to share today. Let's get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the myths. Again, we do hundreds of assessments every month from agency owners, and before we do those assessments or we go and do other presentations like this, we hear the same things over and over again as far as where those myths are. So let's start with myth number one. One is, I'm too small. Right? We hear all the time, "I think I'm too small. What does a bad guy want with me in what I do every single day?" And so I'll give you kind of the quick rundown of how a bad guy makes money and why they're going after every single size business right down to the independent agent, right? So how the bad guys make money is they go and they either sell data on the dark web, they hold you ransom, or cyber extortion as it's called, right? They lock down the data or they lock you out of your company, and you have to give them money in exchange for getting it back, right? No different than any other type of extortion. It's just safer, right? To them. And then the other way that they make money is that they go and change invoices. They go and change different ways. They would do what's called fund-to-fund transfer fraud, where they find ways to milk money out of either you or your customers or the end user. That's how they make money. And they typically do that through 3 ways. One, they figure out your credentials. They use email, right? They use your email against you, and they either try to work their way into getting your credentials to your email address, to your, to your CRM system, to your AMS system, to your quoting tools, right? So that they can go and they can gather that data or lock you out of it to try to get money. The other way is they also go into your email, or they go into your internet, and the documents inside your computer or your file folders or even in your cloud, right? And they look for ways that they can either use that data against you. Like, let's say they send out a big email to a bunch of your people saying, hey, I have this RFP, send me over some information, and then I'll be able to take that information and get you a new quote or get you something. And in exchange, what they're doing is either A, they're selling that information on the dark web, or B, they're going to go create a lookalike company or lookalike something else to try to get money out of them. From that standpoint of it. And then lastly, they're just looking to put things on your computer, right? Through phishing or for spear phishing, they're looking to put things on your computer to go infect your cloud, or even worse, to go infect your upline, right? Or to go infect like the brokerage anchor, go to infect your carrier websites, or go to infect, whoever you're going through. And then guess what? That's going to lead back to you, as you're the one that got them into that area, and either you have to pay them or you have to pay the carrier, however that might go around. That's how they're making money, and that's how they're getting in to be able to make that money. So myth number 2, I can manage this all on my own. Just tell me the right software, just tell me what I should be doing, and I'll just manage it all on myself, right? And I can just manage it through multi-factor authentication and antivirus on a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. basis. Honestly, cybersecurity is now an always on 24/7, 365 attack. According to Allianz, the number one financial risk for the last 3 years in a row, it had never been back-to-back years, now it's 3 years in a row, said that a cybercrime is the largest financial risk to any small business. That includes agencies. And so because of that, it is now an always on. So bad guys don't work 9A, 5P, right? They don't just work on, hey, they have multi-factor authentication, I'm going to move on. They are looking for ways that they can be vulnerable, even if you have one layer of protection. And they're doing it at nights and weekends and on holidays. And it's constantly having to be looking at it, because with AI and with the amount of attacks that they can do all at once, now they can make the same amount of money by going after 1,000 agency owners instead of going after the one big carrier or the one big company. And they can use the agency owner of one, even down to one broker, to get into the big insurance carrier. That's how they can get the better ROI, because cybercriminals, all the same, right? They have an ROI too, a return on investment. So they know where they can spend the most amount of time, the least amount of money to get the biggest payday. And that's where the small business is coming in from. And it's always on. So even if they see one layer of protection, we found out that 50% of all breaches last year would not have been caught or not have been thwarted just through multi-factor authentication alone. That's why having multi-layers of protection is really, when you look at the cul-de-sac and say, hey, yeah, I might have the Ring camera, but that's no longer deterring people from bad guys from breaking into the house and taking what they can. They can get past it at that particular point. And then the last myth is that it's too expensive, right? We've heard that all the time. I'm like, a lot of times I ask the question, like, how much do you think a protection, should cost on a month-to-month basis? And they're throwing out huge numbers, right? Well, because there's companies like CyberFin out there who are taking enterprise level tools and services and people, and we're bringing it down to Main Street, we can make it as affordable as half of a cell phone bill. And sometimes instances even lower than that. So the myth isn't like, hey, to protect myself, it's going to be too expensive, maybe I'll just self-insure. We're like, hey, find the right ways to put multi-layered protection in, have somebody watch it for you 24/7, and then you can also just go on with your day and protecting yourself and not have to worry about it from that standpoint of it, instead of adding a third cell phone bill to your agency.
That was really good information. I hope you guys were taking notes, all you listeners. That was a lot of good information. So
here's the 3 tips. Tip number 1, start by making yourself look less attractive to the criminals. That's tip number 1. You can take this away right now. Just look less attractive. We talked about the cul-de-sac idea, right? The Ring camera, multi-factor authentication by itself is not enough. So let's start with password protection, right? So let's start protecting ourselves by putting in lengthy passwords, 12 plus characters, upper, lower, numbers, symbols, right? And required amongst obviously yourself, but if you have employees and other third-party vendors, they have to also follow that same protocol. And I know it sounds like a lot, but here's another tip that go along with it. Think of your favorite movie line. Think of your favorite poem line. Think of your favorite that you're not going to put that out on social media, right? It's in your head. Add some symbols, add some numbers, and the next thing you know, you've got a 12-character password, probably even longer than that you can remember over and over again. Or use a password like a LastPass password locker, right? Now make sure that your main password, right, your master pass, has that same idea, but use a password locker if that's easier for you to do that side. So just look less attractive, right? Add your multi-factor authentication, have good password protection, and make sure that you have a strong enough endpoint protection on your computer that's going to say, wow, I've found this alert. The bad guy goes in there and says, there's multiple ways that I can't get into their email. There's multiple ways I can't unlock their password. And it's notifying me that, hey, I'm getting notified. The bad guy gets a notification that says, hey, you're trying to get into something that's protected. They might move on to something else. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is that to look at what the compliance. So a lot of times that there's areas that we don't know about compliance. Well, we've now looked at all the different states and HIPAA and NIAC, and we've come down to two main things you need to remember when it comes to being compliant. One, you need to have reasonable cybersecurity in place, right? So that's multi-layered cybersecurity, and that's the ability to respond or monitor an attack 24/7. Number two is you need to report based on the state requirements and HIPAA requirements of any time you feel that there could have been a breach of the data within your network. And you have to do it within a certain amount of time. So again, it's reasonable cybersecurity and report before the consumer reports you, right? Because that's what all the Department of Insurance and ever been telling us. And these can change, things are always changing. But what they're telling us is, hey, as long as you report that you think something's gone on before we hear from a consumer within the deadlines that we've given you, you're usually in a pretty good space. And those fines are pretty hefty. I mean, HIPAA alone's $50 per person or per data that gets stolen. We call it belly buttons, right? Up to $1.5 million per incident per year. So if they can go back a number of years and say, well, here's all the data that was taken and you didn't have these two things in place. That's a hefty fine, right? That's pretty hefty from that standpoint of it. And tip number three, start to look at your personal environment or the environment outside of your office and turn it into a business environment, right? I know it sounds like a pain, but if you think about it, if you can make your business look like your business and have all the security when they're at home, at Walmart, if you're doing if you're doing some seminars, or at the coffee shop or whatever it is, if you can make your business environment look exactly the same outside of the office, you are now going to also severely lower your risk of both a crime and a fine. So when I say things like that is, hey, purchase business devices and put the same cybersecurity on those devices when they're working at home or when you're out in the field somewhere. Same with your mobile phones. Make sure that you have business-owned mobile phones, right? Or smartphones. And all the business that's done on those smartphones are done and they're business-owned, right? That way, because you never know what they're using with those devices, right? You don't know if they're, at home and they have a child that has an Xbox that's doing Fortnite and Roblox and working on TikTok. Those are huge holes in the internet that allows anybody to get in through the Wi-Fi network to try and mess with your internet from that standpoint and try to get in from that way. So you want to make sure that's that way you can severely lower your risk from that side, and as well as think about the different softwares. Like, don't let them purchase their own softwares. Don't let them update their own computers. Don't let them, don't think that when they're working they can log in from, grandma's, they want to go visit grandma and they can log in from grandma's computer, because you never know. They love being on social media. They might be clicking on everything, and they're not, they're the number one personal person that's under attack, right? The seniors market is where a lot of them are being under attack by cybercriminals and being taken advantage of their vulnerabilities too. So those are the three tips that I would talk about that you could use today to severely lower your risk from a cybercrime.
Great tips. I think the one that particularly stood out to me was having devices that are specifically used for the business, and that those devices have all the cybersecurity software installed. You only use it for the business. It's completely separate from your personal life. I know that's a different way of thinking for a lot of folks, but as cybercrime gets more advanced, we have to take these measures. This isn't the most fun topic for everyone, but it's an important topic. If you want to keep growing your business, if you're thinking 10, 20 years into the future, you got to think about this stuff. Technology's it's not slowing down anytime soon. So you guys had mentioned there's a couple stories or examples. You mentioned one was like an AI spoof. Then there was something to do with an agency in Illinois. Give our audience some examples of cybercrime, at its worst.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the agency one because I'm sure it's close to, near and dear to a lot of people's hearts here. So there was a small agency in the middle of Illinois, been in business for 25 years, was working with one particular carrier quoting system that would spit out about 20 quotes a month. Over one weekend, they happened to go on vacation over a long weekend. They came back and there was 25,000 quotes sitting in the sent box of the agency owner. And when they started doing the investigation, they're like, yeah, somebody went in with stole the credentials from the agency owner, went into the quoting tool and downloaded 25 and used it to download 25,000 quotes of people's personal information, took that information and sold it on the dark web. That was after an investigation. It found out that it came back to that agency owner. Between the fines that they were going to be held under, between the remediation and what it was going to take to fix the issue, what it was going to take in their reputation hit, rather than continue to go down the path, they just went out of business. And that story is the reason why Chris and I are doing this today, is that we don't want to see another agency owner on something that, seems so such a simple yet complex crime leads to a business that's been around for a long time going out of business. Right? That because now all those people that they represented with their insurance isn't available and they have to go find their own place. So not only do we not want to see our business, our agency friends go out of business, we don't want to see their customers get affected by this too. So that's the story on, and again, it was middle of Illinois. It wasn't in a big city, right? It wasn't even it wasn't even that targeted of attack, if you will, right?
It was an obvious target.
Yeah. What's that?
Wasn't an obvious target.
It was not an obvious target. No. And it was all started with a simple yet complex phishing campaign.
And that is what we're starting to see, is we are seeing definitely more and more attacks on the smaller businesses. They're easier to get through. The security isn't as strong. And I mean, compared to some of the bigger companies, I think everybody always thinks, well, the hackers are going after the big companies, but when you've got 100 low-hanging fruit that have no security or very little security in place, or ability to even see when they're in there or how long they're in the system, it's just, that is the target right now. So it is the small town agency. It's the small town business that they're after.
Yeah, so let's talk about the AI spoof really quickly, because I know AI is a big topic out there, and this was a pretty public one out that you can go research. But a bad guy used AI to impersonate an executive within an organization, and they were even on a Zoom call together, right, on a video call together. The controller or the person that handled the money was on what they felt was a real live video chat with an executive who's asking them to transfer money, answering the questions as if it was that person. The mouth looked the way that they were speaking, the way that their mannerisms were all matching perfectly to where there was no reason for that person to question whether or not to send that information. That to me is where this is going, right? That to me is where that bad guys are going to figure out how to use the tools that we use for productivity against us, and they're going to be able to do it in mass instead of in one attack at a time. And that's millions of dollars that got transferred that will never come back because of something as diabolical as that. So I tell that story as that is a very complex, and what are the chances that that's going to happen to a small company? But think of how they're going to start to use that against you through social engineering of like making them look like a customer, making them look like a potential insured, how it's going to look like somebody from a carrier. Like there's ways that they're going to start using these tools against you because, oh, hey, you've already got, you're blocking some spear phishing campaigns, right? You're not responding to emails anymore. We're going to go down to this depth as a way to use it against you. There's too much money. $3 trillion is the cybercrime industry. That's how much is being stolen every single year. They're not going to stop, and they're going to use productivity tools to do it.
Wow. So pay attention, guys, because this stuff is real. It's not slowing down, and I can see this being a problem for your business. I can see this being a problem for your clients, unfortunately. Hopefully, technology will also evolve to better detect these things, and I think that's going to be the case too. But it's something to be aware of. So, all right, we're getting towards the end of this conversation. I think it would be good to wrap up by saying, in a nutshell, how does CyberFin help our agent partners that are interested in signing up? And then we'll kind of close with a call to action.
Yep. Yeah. So just like other Brokerage Inc. agents that we now protect on a 24/7 basis, we have an all-in-one solution. So it's the software. So we put our software that's all tied together that protects your email, your internet, gives you your own secure internet portal, and the devices themselves, right? Your computers themselves with one piece of software that goes on that your computer and any other computer within your company, right? It then is managed and monitored 24/7, 365. And if there's any issues, we actually go in and remediate and mitigate any issues that a bad guy might be doing to any of those areas, all at zero cost to you. So for a per user per month basis, you have all your cybersecurity and your compliance needs all met with one solution and one company servicing it for you, so that you can go on and selling insurance and providing the insurance services that you have out there while someone else is handling the cybersecurity and the compliance standpoint. Our packages for that service, it's on a per user per month basis, right? It is as low as $50 per user per month. Because of the Brokerage Inc. relationship, we've always heavily discounted it because we don't want to see any Brokerage Inc. agents ever not feel that they can't afford to protect themselves. So we've done it, and the Brokerage Inc. has been great about helping us promote that. $50 per user per month is our starting package to be able to protect you from a cybercrime. And again, it comes with the tools, the technology, and the talent to manage for you 24/7. Our process to get started that's worked the best is we are offering a cyber assessment. So if you're like, yeah, I have a couple things, or I'm not sure how protected I am, and I don't know, we are doing cyber assessments at no charge. There's a link that you can use in the show notes that we'll give over to you, that you can put in the show notes. They sign up for that cyber assessment. It takes about 30 minutes, and then we can show them where they're vulnerable and our recommendations to help close the gaps on their cybersecurity.
Great. Wonderful offer. Encourage all of you to take them up on that. If you want to learn more about CyberFin, we have a landing page with them. Just go to CyberFin, cyberfin.net/thebrokerage-inc. It's all one word. cyberfin.net/thebrokerage-inc. You can go there, read a little bit more about what we just discussed, and sign up. And then we'll also share the link that Daniel just mentioned for the assessment in the show notes. All right, everyone. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing a webinar here in the near future with CyberFin. Depending on when you listen to this podcast, this could have been in the past. We'll also have a recording available for you, depending on when you're listening. But guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Thanks.